you guys. It's a really big honor to be here today. I'm a big fan of TEDs, and it's been, for me at least, a really inspirational day sitting here listening to all these people. So thank you to everybody who made this event possible, to all you guys for being here. It's really quite awesome. Okay, so my name's Trish. I'm a choreographer and I'm a director. And among other things, I make these music videos with the rock band OK Go. And I'm going to start with a story. When I was very young, like 4 or 5 years old, I had a thing for Donny Osmond. Bad. At the time, he had this TV show, the Donny and Marie Show, with his sister, and I was allowed to stay up past my bedtime, an hour past my bedtime on Sunday nights to watch it. And Donny kind of became my hero in an enormous way. The guy could sing, he could dance, he wore sparkly bodysuits, he had purple socks, he loved rock and roll, and, you know, as far as I could see, this guy had it all. What I had was this orange Fisher-Price record player in my room, and I listened to the Donny and Marie record over and over ad nauseum. And not only that, I staged really, really elaborate choreographed dance shows in my room with it. And while I had sort of a rudimentary understanding of my record player, I knew that it had something to do with like a needle and some wires and a speaker, I secretly thought Donny was probably inside of it. Because there is no way, when I would put on those songs, they sounded so clear and so close. There's no way a record player makes that noise. It's Donny. Well, the interesting thing about this is, while I'd be dancing around my room, sometimes I'd get very frustrated with my sort of lackluster moves, or maybe my lack of ingenuity, or my, substandard performance. So I would go and turn that record player around because I did not want Donny to see something that wasn't worthy. And then while he was looking the other way, I would just work all the things out and then turn it back around so he could see something pretty great. Of course, the significant part of that story is that I found in Donny Osmond my spark, my inspiration. And, that was what took me from being just a kid running around her room dancing to a kid that wanted to make something really good, God darn it. So I think for creative people who make stuff, that's kind of the issue all the time. Where do you find that spark, that inspiration? And I could come up here and try to tell you where I try to find mine, but I think that what it would sound like is, guys, listen, you start with a fireplace, and then you take these logs, try to get dry ones, you stack them in there, find some newspaper, ball it up, jam it in there. Yeah? Yeah? The fact is, everybody wants a cozy fire in their living room, and you do have to set the conditions for that fire, or you're never going to have one, or you're not going to have the right kind of fire. But the conditions alone don't make a fire. At some point, someone or something has to come along and light your match. You need the Donny Osmond factor. And I don't really know what else to say about it. The only thing I can say about it is, you can't put your finger on the spark. That is the nature of the spark. I can't put my finger on it either. All I can do is roll out the red carpet, right, for the spark, invite it to my house and my life, and hope it shows up at my party. So that's the part I'm going to talk about. How do you roll out the red carpet for the spark? So back to Donny Osmond, because that's really what I'm interested in. While he was really my first collaborator. He really helped me with my moves in those early days. And since then, I've had so many people who have helped me. In fact, right around the time that I received the crushing blow of reality that Donny Osmond wasn't actually watching my moves, that was right around the same time I realized that my little brother Damien was watching my moves. And you know what? He became one of my most brilliant and best-loved collaborators of all, and he's actually a much harsher critic than Donny Osmond. But that criticism is exactly what has pushed me and what I adore about working with him. And the fact is, I always have help. I always have friends who are smarter than I am. I always have friends who are more technically skilled than I am, who have better taste than I do, who are cooler than I do, who know more about music, who have a different perspective. And, you know, that is the difference. That is the thing that helps me. So, you know, I come up with a good idea. Okay. Coming up with a good idea feels a little to me like walking down the street and seeing a house go up for sale right when they're putting the sign in the yard and you get it. It feels a little like stumbling on something before anybody else found it. And it's a good feeling. I mean, you were the one who was out there looking. It's yours, fair and square. But it's kind of humbling to realize what it took for that house to exist and for you to be able to make it yours. It took all the people that put in the drywall and the electrical and the roof and all the people at the real estate company and the bank and the title company, even the guy over at Design Within Reach who sold you the couch in your living room. It took all of that for you to live in this thing and make it your home. And not only all those people, it took the building materials and the weather conditions and strokes of good luck and all of the sort of circumstances surrounding you taking over that house. So sometimes I've found that your sort of non-human collaborators are your most powerful ones. And I have another example of that. My brother and I, here's where we're going to look at us. There we are. I was about 11 and he was about 7. And we were in the car on our way home from church with my parents on an Easter Sunday. And it was, we had these jelly beans from the church Easter egg hunt. So we're sitting in the car. It was kind of stuffy. We rolled down the windows and we started kind of lining up the jelly beans along the little metal thing on the windowsill. And we had this Walkman. We had a Walkman that we shared, and we had a little double jack, so we'd both plug in and listen together. And what we usually listened to was something I had discovered a few days earlier, which was the Q107 Hot 9 at 9 countdown. And it was pretty thrilling stuff, because up until then, we'd been listening to my parents' music. It was like Linda Ronstadt and Kingston Trio, a little bit of Nana Muscuri, some classical, good music, but nothing as thrilling as the Hot 9 at 9 countdown. And in particular, we had discovered that, backing up, these days everybody has their earbuds and their iPod and they have their sort of own, personal playlist playing all the time. That was not the case. This is 1982. This concept of having like your own private soundtrack pumped into your head, for us was like, it wasn't even like we were listening to music. It was like the music was forming in our brainstem and the solar system was coursing through our universe, and we were just like there, listening to Eye of the Tiger over and over again in our Easter finest, right? And we're in this moving car with these jelly beans lined up along the window. And at one point, when the chorus came in, and we all know the chorus to Eye of the Tiger, extremely gritty, arrogant, awesome. And we looked over at these jelly beans, and all of a sudden, these guys were like not fooling around. They were like crouching on the window and they looked really sporty and really athletic and really purposeful and focused. And we were like, whoa. And all of a sudden these jelly beans were dancing. And in fact, our entire ride home that day danced. Everything synced up perfectly. I mean, the stoplights and the traffic circles, the texture of the road, even like the way the sun would come slanting through and hit the jelly beans just at the right time and light up their candy shells. They were like purple and pink, all saturated, and some guy's mowing his lawn. Boom, grass smell. It was, I swear to God, the most sort of like hyper sensational macro enchantment. And it was not my imagination. Or, what's crazier is, my brother has the same imagination, because we still talk about this moment. It has defined us and our style of work, because we are forever trying to find these simple, convergent moments where everything lines up, and this just absolutely uncomplicated but beautiful thing happens because everybody and everything is on the same team. So that, to me, is the nature of a really good collaboration, and finding collaborators, as opposed to coming up with great ideas. I get asked all the time, how do you come up with your ideas? That's the part, like the house, finding a house. Like, yeah, anybody can do that. It's finding the people and the things. And one of my other favorite collaborators is the spectacular Playfully Dance Theater. And these are the people we joined forces with to make the video that you guys just saw. And you know what, I really don't want to see that anymore. So here we are, Playfully Dance Theater. These people are the most staggeringly inventive and brave people ever. They collaborate all the time. They're specialists. That's what they've done since 1971. They are masters at it. And their executive director, Itamar Kubovi, another one of my heroes, he, I think, says it the best. He says that starting a new collaboration is like walking into a dark room with people. You don't know what you're going to find. You don't even really know how you're going to go about finding it. You just hold hands and you go in. So, the dark room. I don't really know what to say about that dark room. It's a scary place, and we've all been there. And I have gotten myself completely off track, and I'm going to look at my notes. Yes, okay, so the dark room, going back. The dark room reminds me of how important it is to not take things so seriously. And it sounds like a weird thing, but I'll show you what I mean. When you go into a dark room, if you're laughing and playing, instead of sort of frantically groping for the light switches all the time, it's like that other thing that happens when you go into the dark, where if I want to look at this stool and that water, it's better not to really look at it, but to look over here, and I'll see it more clearly. It's that peripheral vision thing. And peripheral vision is like playing, and playing is like your peripheral vision. It's like taking the scenic route. A lot of awesome stuff happens off the beaten track over here. And the only way you find all that stuff going on in your peripheral vision is to play and relax and find it. So, what do I mean by play? And I'm going to go and tell you a little bit about it in the context of this video we made, All Is Not Lost. So, going into this video, I had only the vaguest notion of what I wanted to do. I knew that I wanted to explore gravity, and I wanted to explore dancers seen from underneath. I knew I wanted to shoot on a piece of plexiglass, but other than that, it was kind of all over the map, and we really didn't know what we were going to find. When I submitted reference materials in my sort of idea pitch, it was like footage of kaleidoscopes and slow or time-lapse photography of flowers opening and beetles running around and like animals in a mirrored room and someone floating around in a spacecraft and, you know, a geometric figure and then some foot fetish stuff of like people's toes. It was super inspiring, but it was really kind of all over the map. And we really had no idea what we were doing, but we held hands and we went into the room. And it was February. It was rural Connecticut, which is where Palablis creates all their work. And we gathered here with this 8 by 10 foot piece of plywood in the Washington Club Hall, which is an 100-year-old building in this frigid, snowy, rural Connecticut. 10 dancers, an iPod, and really no idea what to do. So where do we start? Of course, we all agree, start playing. So we started rolling and tumbling and sliding and jumping around on this plexiglass. And we did a lot of goofy things. I'll show you some. We made faces. We smashed body parts up against it. We laid on top of each other and made like goofy mashups of different body parts. We used all kinds of different materials. Yeah. Those are girls' hair. Those are girls on there. We used all kinds of fabric. We used all kinds of like playground balls and mirrors and things that we found at Goodwill and ketchup and hula hoops. We used those picnic tablecloths, the plasticky ones, and duct tape. There you have it. We did all these things, and we did all this exploring, and gradually the sort of excellent electrical things started happening through all this play. We had the herringbone foot right there. We had this, the beanstalk, the timipede, the pulsating meat flower. But my favorite moment of all, and the one that was for me the eye of the tiger moment, and I always cry at the eye of the tiger moment because that's what I do, but my real eye of the tiger moment was our first kaleidoscope. It was just astonishing to me. It was like watching a cell divide under a microscope. It was so abstract and yet so specific. It was so breathtakingly simple and yet somehow weirdly complicated. It just looked natural and perfect. And all of the laughing and joking aside up to that point, I realized we have a jelly bean rider moment. We're gonna make this thing. They are not, by the way, they have no distinct choreography. They were just making this up as they went along. Feeling each other, breathing with each other, listening to each other, smelling each other. I mean, they just made it up as they went along. So yeah, that was when we really realized we've got a jelly bean rider, moment in effect. And we gathered together 4 more times in Connecticut over the course of that spring, this past spring. Each time we spent 3 or 4 days just throwing ourselves into the glass, literally. And exploring it, and exploring what we were creating. And each time we met, the snow melted a little more, and the sun shone a little longer, and this thing we were making really started to take its own shape. And that's when we started to sort of explore what the boundaries of it were going to be, what were going to be the rules, which is another one of my conditions for the Spark. The rules. What are you going to do for rules? And it sounds anathema, is that the right word? It sounds contrary to what I just said about playing, but the fact is, imagine having no house to live in. Imagine having no walls around you. It's a very sort of overwhelming, scary feeling. You kind of need to put ideas around, or walls around your idea at some point in order to feel secure enough inside of it to be able to push those boundaries and fill up every square inch of that idea. So it came time to do that with the Playfully. We had gone into this project with basically no rules, and it was really, really fun. But at some point, all that play had to result in us sitting down and essentially creating the bylaws that were going to govern this world we were inventing. And that's what you have to do at some point in everything. It's sort of the filmmaking equivalent to the founding fathers framing our Constitution. It's a little grueling. You have to figure out what's going to be allowed and what's not going to be allowed, and then everybody kind of has to agree to it and sign on to be a citizen of this place and obey those laws. In our case, some of those laws were really, really easy to agree upon, and some took more discussion and back and forth. For instance, our camera, we had a camera under that table thing. Is that camera going to be allowed to move, drift around, push in and out, or is it just going to stay there? Which is what it did. Are you ever going to see somebody between the glass and the table, or just on the other side of the glass? Are we going to use costumes? Are we going to use props, like those picnic table things? Are we going to use that stuff? Are we going to use our faces to tell a story and take on characters, or are we just kind of going to play it down? Are we going to try to shoot this whole thing in this sort of okay go, one take style, or are we going to take it to a new place and try to expand it a little? And speaking of that, in terms of expanding it, Google Chrome came along and said, hey, you could expand it with us because we have this browser that will allow you to open different windows, so multiple films are playing at one time, and people at home watching it can have some input as to what the choreography and the content's going to be. That kind of blew our mind, because our brains are sort of already aching with all the possibilities of that glass and those bodies, and to start thinking not of one film, but 12 films that were going to happen all together simultaneously, our brains started to hurt. The architecture and the geometry of it was kind of a mind blend. So we called our producer, Shirley, who is absolutely awesome, and there's not enough great things I can say about her, and she helped us put together this crack team of tech wizards who downloaded Bollywood video software and all kinds of insane applications and helped us kind of make a roadmap digitally of what we thought we might be able to do. There they are. That's the guy who shot it in 3D for us. It's also in 3D. So there we are with this crack team, and honestly, we were trying to make 12 films act like jelly beans. Even though we shot them separately, we needed them all to be on the same team. And not only that, we needed all these people. It took so many people to make that simple video. All those people were little jelly beans. In fact, I just now noticed for the first time, we look like a big jelly bean. We were all jelly beans, and you can see the happiness in our faces. It is such an addictive feeling to be a jelly bean. It's a feeling that I love so much, and it's a feeling that has stuck with me. I still refer to it as that. And yet, as clear as that moment is, that original jelly bean moment on the car ride, if someone came to me tomorrow, I direct commercials too, right? If someone came to me tomorrow and was like, listen, Trish, $4 million if you can make that jelly bean for our ad on TV. I could not do it. Because that jelly bean moment was, this one pinprick in the sort of space-time continuum made up of those sights and sounds and smells and tastes and shapes and textures that were happening right then, right there on that day, on that little place on Massachusetts Avenue on that planet. And like I said, you collaborate not just with the people and the technicians and the artists and your friends that help you, you collaborate with the entire situation. So my best chance, really, of recreating situations and moments like those is to take all the parts that I know have to go into the equation and then hope that when I add it all up, 2 and 2 doesn't just make 4, it makes 400 or 4,000 or 4 million. But it doesn't always happen. Most of the time you add 2 and 2 and you still get 4. Sometimes not even that. But I have to soldier on because I know these moments do happen. And while it takes a lot of conscious effort to gather all of the nutrients you need, it still continuously and always surprises and delights me to relearn over and over again that momentous and magical things grow from someplace and something you just couldn't predict. And that's the mysteriousness of it for all of us. And I don't understand it. I don't think anyone understands it. And I don't think we want to understand it because that's why we do it. It's that mystery. It's bigger than us. And it's about wonder. Frankly, it's about wonder. And with that, I wish all of you lots of it because the more of it there is in the world, the better. Thank you.